Financial security isn't just about how much you earn, it's about how you manage the money that you do have. And it's probably true to say that the middle class earners tend to be the backbone of the economy, regardless of whichever country you're in. But many everyday money habits can be the financial trap that capture even the best of earners in a vicious cycle. The median, which is like the average annual earnings for a household in the UK, is just over £37,000 for the last financial year, with more than 1/3 of households just one paycheck away from having absolutely no money at all. This literally means that you are living hand to mouth. There's no savings, there's nothing to get you through an emergency, there's nothing to help you out if you lose your job, or if there's a sudden disaster, or if you really need some money urgently. Effectively, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and in order to be financially secure and free, this is absolutely no way to continue to go in, but it is a reality that it is the case for so many people. So these 9 money habits, or failures if you like, often are the reason, the crux, which prevent people from getting out of that eternal paycheck to paycheck cycle. So by highlighting these for you today in this video, hoping you're going to be able to recognize them and try and work your way out of these. If you can identify them and then try to correct them, then that is the pinnacle for you to be able to transform your financial future. And as well as looking at them, we're going to look at radical ways that you might be able to introduce to get yourself out of these habit cycles. So in the UK, around 26% of people 40 and under are living paycheck to paycheck. This number drops to 26% for those over 40 and 16% for those aged 60 and above. But there's still not great statistics. And this constant financial tightrope walk leaves no room for wealth building or even emergencies. On top of this, the psychological impact is that it creates a scarcity mindset, which then means that you're making reactive rather than financially informed decisions based off of the money that you have got. In order to get out of this vicious cycle, you're going to have to look at setting yourself a zero-based budget. This means it is going to be a really tight belt-fitting situation where you're going to have to transfer 20% of all your income into savings and or investments. Even if you think it is not possible right now to manage on what you have got, it is the only way that you're going to get out of that financial whirlwind and the only way you're going to be able to get forward in financial freedom. There is always room and there's always areas where you're able to cut back in, and usually it's things like groceries or petrol and expenditures that are usually luxuries or wants rather than needs, and cutting back on all those non-essential expenses. Yes, it might mean that for the next 6 to 12 months until you get yourself out of the vicious cycle, you are living a really, really quiet lifestyle, but ultimately the payoff of this is going to be that you're going to reap the benefits in the long run compared to having to put up with it for the short term. By sitting down, go through your bank statements, looking at subscriptions, looking at food deliveries, looking at all those luxuries that you think you might need, but actually taking off those rose-tinted spectacles and taking a good long hard look at your finances, you can usually free up quite a little bit of cash, and then the rest you can find from elsewhere. Loads of videos on this channel to be able to help you to do that. And even if 20% is not possible for you right now, have a look at starting as small as possible with just 1%. Anything is better than nothing. And even if you can only save that 1%, it is going to help you along the way get to those bigger goals. Once you start transferring that 1% to 20% into savings and investments, you're going to let compound interest do the rest and start to make you a little bit of a saving. The next thing is considering credit cards and when luxury leads to debt. So compound interest can be great when it works for you, but in terms of credit card companies, they use compound interest to work against you. They turn those luxuries that you felt like you needed to have at the time into financial burdens, and they do this through compound interest. As of June 2024, the average household had around about £2,500 of credit card debt. And this is a significant increase from pre-pandemic numbers, which makes me think that following the pandemic, people automatically decide to reward themselves with the fact that they were able to go out of the house, able to go shopping, and able to do all the things that they had missed doing. And actually now they're facing the reality and facing the impact of that. With credit card interest rates ranging around about the 20% on average. If you had £5,000 worth of credit card debt and you're around that 20% mark and you're only making those minimum repayments, it would take you about 16 years to pay off that debt and leaving you with a total interest just over £6,000, making you grand total repayment of £11,000 over 16 years. And if you bear in mind that lifestyle inflation often leads to more credit dependency, whereby you're going to start to upgrade your lifestyle rather than upgrade or increase your savings, you're going to have to start paying off those bank balances, those credit card balances in full every single month in order to escape this cycle. Use cash for your fluid expenses, for your discretionary expenses. It means that you're going to become a lot more alert and a lot more aware of your actual physical spending, and keeping those credit cards as payment tools rather than lending instruments. Which leads me to point 3, which is the minimum payment mindset. So if we go back to that example where if somebody owed £5,000, they had an average of 20% interest on that, but they were making the minimum payment, we've already seen how much longer and how much interest you're going to be paying on that. There's usually a minimum floor amount that you need to pay of a percentage or a set amount every single month, depending on the credit card that you've taken out. And of course, your credit score. Now, if you incorporate the debt avalanche method, which you might have seen online, where you target the highest interest debts first, pay those off as much as you possibly can before you even touch the lower rate interest, you're going to be able to reduce that debt repayment significantly over a period of time. Because once you've got used to paying off those big amounts, when you finally get down to those smaller interest amounts, it suddenly becomes a lot easier to do. You've got over the hard hurdle, and soon you'll start to benefit from reaping those rewards. It's going to be a struggle in the short term, but in the long term, you are going to save literally thousands of pounds on interest, thousands of pounds that could be much better off in your own back pocket. The fourth thing is something that I've always advocated, and that is financial planning. And whether it's something as simple as sitting down with your money every single month and deciding where it's going to go and pre-planning and allocating your money. So the smart, comprehensive method encompasses retirement goals, investment strategies, insurance coverage, estate planning, setting specific, measurable, achievable, and time-bound financial objectives. You're going to be tracking your net worth, your debt to income ratio. This is looking at the 50, 30, 20% method, which I will have touched on a few times in videos on this channel, where you work with 50% of your income to go towards your needs. That's your home, that's your rent, your mortgage, your utilities, things like that. Then you've got 30% which goes towards your wants. So it might be things that are your very expensive, things that you can rein in on, like your groceries or your travel, as well as those luxury type items. And then 20%, which we've already touched on, as much as you can, at least going towards those savings and or investments. There are loads of apps out there now that can do this automatically for you, so you don't even have to need to remember, just automatically set it up if you're feeling brave enough. But the reality is, you will never escape the trap of being broke if you don't know where your money is going. Number 5 is keeping up appearances. It's that lifestyle creep. It's status symbol spending. That's choosing that £50,000 vehicle over a £25,000 vehicle over a £10,000 vehicle. If you got yourself that status symbol, that £50,000 car, and assuming a loan rate of 5 years at 4.5%, the £25,000 car will cost you about £460. The £50,000 car, you're looking at around £900 for a vehicle that is going to do the exact same job. Now just think, if you get a £10,000 car or even a second-hand £5,000 car, one, as long as it does the job of getting you from A to B safely, you've just got to get over yourself and decide that you don't actually need that status symbol. It's a difference between those £25,000 and £50,000 car of almost £450, which we invested that for, say, 10 years at a rate of about 8%. You're going to see a return of around £86,000. So it's just these minor lifestyle upgrades that can have such a significant impact. If you sit down and look at the figures, get over yourself. You don't need to compare yourself to the Joneses. You need to do what is the best thing for you to get yourself financially free. This value-based spending has got to align with your own personal goals. The reality is, financial status actually comes from financial security, not visible possessions. The reality is, a lot of millionaires drive modest cars and live in middle-class houses. Investment procrastination is point number 6, and I've already briefly touched on compound interest, and I will be doing a whole other video on compound interest to help you along the way with this. In a nutshell, starting to save at as early an age as possible means that you're able to make compound interest work so much harder for you. If you start your retirement savings at 25 compared to 40, compared to 50, your retirement nest egg will have grown so much more significantly by the time you're at 65 or whatever your retirement age might be. In fact, it can almost double it. Here's an example. So say you started at the age 25 and you did 40 years of saving, and if you invested £500 a month with an average of 8% annual return, it would result in approximately £1,589,000 by the time you're age 65. If you started at, let's say, the age of 35 and you only did 30 years of saving, that same £500 monthly investment would grow to about £745,000 by the age of 65. So you can see in this scenario, starting 10 years earlier results in a nest egg that's more than twice as large. This dramatic difference has illustrated how compound interest power over the time and the importance of early investing. Now, even if you are well past 25 and you're only able to start now, it is better than starting in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, because the same variable effects still apply. You can see just that massive difference for 10 years, but how about another 5 years or another more 10 years? The later you leave it, the less money you're going to have. Point number 8 is the emergency fund gap that we have here in the UK. So it's thought that about 35% of the UK population do not have enough money saved away in case of an emergency. And this is absolutely essential to cover any unexpected expenses. So how much is considered enough for emergency savings? Well, the experts recommend you should have between 3 and 6 months of your expenses saved to one side. So once you've sat down and you've worked out all your outgoings and you now know exactly how much you need each month just to survive, you need to multiply that between 3 or 6 times depending on your situation and how prepared you want to be. And that is the amount that you need to have put away in an instant access high savings account so that you can access it no matter what. If you lose your job, it's a great buffer to have. If your car breaks down or it gets stolen, it's another fantastic buffer to have. If there's a complete disaster in your house, then you have got that savings fund there and you don't have to worry about how you are going to be able to finance any situation that could be deemed a disaster. It's really easy to say, well, I don't have enough money to save right now for an emergency fund, but what if that emergency happened tomorrow? How are you going to fund it? Yeah, you might think you've not got enough, but the reality is if you are faced with that emergency instantly, then you're going to become completely unstuck. You have got to find a way to fund that emergency account. The easiest way to do that is to start to siphon off some money as soon as you are paid. Set up a standing order for every single month so there's never an excuse to miss it. You could do a save the change option on your debit card, and most debit cards will now have a system set up. It's great that we can access it instantly online where you save the change. It might be that you round up whatever you've just purchased on your card to the nearest pound, and that gets put into a little pot. At the end of every single day, you might go to your account and take off the top of the change and put that into another separate savings account. Even these little pennies will make such a big difference for somebody who might be struggling to save in the first instance. You could do it tangibly. I love saving change up in a drawer. If you know me, you'll know that I do the penny saving challenge. I do lots of different savings challenges, and I love having that visual representation right in front of me. I do lots of these kind of pots, whether it's physical or whether it's online. It's great to see them building and accruing and knowing that I've got money saved to one side for whatever it might be. And I start off with literal pennies, and the difference that has made to my savings and my life in general has been phenomenal. Number 9 is financial education. It is absolutely true that financial literacy directly correlates with financial wealth. Put simply, by expanding your knowledge in different sources, listening to vlogs, watching YouTube videos, or doing something, going back to college and learning and getting another qualification, it means that you're accessing another source of income, another source of education, another source of learning, another way for you to be educated so that you can implement those ideas and either continue to grow in the right direction, give you a little bit more confidence in your money saving skills, or even gives you the power to grow your own income by setting up a business or learning that extra skill that you could then utilize in your own workplace. The truth is, financial knowledge will give you the power to break out of that working hand to mouth scenario. If you don't educate yourself, it is not possible to grow or develop yourself further. And in turn, it means that you're not going to be able to access any further income. Overall, breaking these middle class money habits does require awareness, action, and persistence. Start with the basics by tracking your expenses, build the emergency funds, and then eliminate those high interest debts. Just by making these really small changes right now, today, means that in the long run, over time, you'll start to see massive changes. Now it's time to take control of your financial future. But remember that financial peace does not come from income level itself, but from the habits and decisions that you make with the money that you do have. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video. If you enjoyed what you've seen today, I'd absolutely love it if you go ahead and hit subscribe, give it a thumbs up, a like icon, and let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Have yourself an amazing day, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.